The quiet single dad next door needed one ride, then one woman changed everything overnight forever. Nobody in the neighborhood noticed the quiet man until the morning he stood beside the road holding his little son's hand, looking more exhausted than any father should ever look. His old pickup truck refused to start for the third day in a row, the school bus had already disappeared around the corner, and his son tried to smile as if missing another day of school didn't matter. Cars drove past without slowing down. Curtains moved behind windows, but nobody stepped outside. Then, just as hope seemed to disappear, one woman stopped her car. She believed she was simply giving a stranger one ride. She had no idea that a single act of kindness would uncover a heartbreaking story, restore a broken family, and change both of their lives forever in ways neither of them could have imagined. Before we continue, if you believe that one small act of kindness can completely change someone's life, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone you care about, and subscribe to Echo Tale Story so you never miss another emotional journey that reminds us humanity still exists. Every neighborhood has someone who quietly carries invisible battles, and on Maple Crest Lane that person was Rowan Mercer. He was 36 years old, worked long shifts repairing heating and cooling systems, and had become a single father 3 years earlier after losing his wife during a sudden illness that left the entire family shattered. Since that painful day, Rowan lived only for his 8-year-old son, Owen. Their modest rented house stood at the end of the street with peeling white paint, a tiny vegetable garden, and a worn wooden porch where father and son spent evenings watching the sunset after exhausting days. Rowan rarely attended neighborhood gatherings, never complained about life, and politely waved to everyone before disappearing back inside. Most people assumed he simply preferred being alone, but the truth was far more heartbreaking. Every extra hour meant another paycheck, another grocery bill paid, another school supply purchased, and another chance to keep his son smiling despite everything they had lost. Across the street lived Maren Caldwell, a 32-year-old elementary school librarian who had moved into the neighborhood only 6 months earlier. She believed books could heal almost any wound, yet she carried silent grief of her own after years of caring for her late father through a long illness. Her life had become quiet, predictable, and carefully organized. Every morning she drove to school at exactly the same time, greeted children with warm smiles, and returned home before sunset with stacks of books resting on her passenger seat. She noticed Rowan often but assumed he simply wanted privacy. Still, something about the tired father gently holding his son's backpack every morning stayed in her thoughts. That rainy Tuesday morning changed everything. Rowan's truck would not start again despite every desperate attempt. Repair costs had become impossible after unexpected medical bills for Owen's asthma treatment. Missing work meant losing income, while Owen had already missed too many school days. Rowan stood beside the broken truck trying to decide which responsibility mattered more when Maren slowed her car beside them. Without asking unnecessary questions or offering pity, she simply smiled and invited them inside. Rowan hesitated because accepting help felt like admitting defeat, but Owen's hopeful eyes convinced him otherwise. During the drive, Maren noticed how carefully Rowan thanked her several times and how Owen excitedly described his favorite science project despite obvious disappointment. It was only a 15-minute ride, yet kindness filled every mile. The next morning Rowan expected to walk, but Maren stopped again. The morning after that she appeared once more. Soon it became an unspoken routine. Rowan insisted on paying for fuel, but Maren refused every offer with gentle laughter. Instead, she accepted fresh tomatoes and peppers from Rowan's tiny garden whenever they were ready. Slowly the uncomfortable silence disappeared. Owen laughed more during the rides. Rowan occasionally smiled without forcing himself. Maren found herself looking forward to those peaceful mornings more than she expected. As autumn arrived, Maren began noticing details others overlooked. Rowan often skipped lunch to save money. His work boots were patched together with careful stitching instead of being replaced. His hands carried countless cuts from repairing equipment, yet he never complained. At night, after returning from work, he still helped Owen finish homework before cooking dinner and reading bedtime stories. Sleep rarely came before midnight because laundry, house repairs, and paperwork waited until his son was asleep. Behind the quiet exterior lived extraordinary strength that almost nobody recognized. One Saturday afternoon Maren accidentally witnessed something that broke her heart. While organizing flowers outside her porch, she saw Rowan secretly selling his treasured guitar to a passing collector. Owen watched silently from the doorway pretending not to cry. Later that evening Maren learned from another neighbor that Rowan had sold the instrument simply to pay for Owen's upcoming school field trip because he refused to let his son feel different from his classmates. The guitar had been the last gift from his late wife. Giving it away had cost him far more than money. That night Maren could not sleep. She kept thinking about how easily society overlooked quiet struggles while celebrating loud success. She realized Rowan never needed sympathy. He simply needed someone willing to stand beside him without judgment. Early the next morning she contacted friends from school, local businesses, and community volunteers. She never shared Rowan's private story publicly or asked for charity. Instead, she organized something far more meaningful. Everyone contributed through practical support. One mechanic offered free labor. A parts supplier donated replacement components. Parents from school quietly collected educational supplies for Owen. A grocery owner provided gift cards without revealing the donor's name. Nobody wanted recognition. They only wanted to help someone who had spent years helping everyone else. Monday morning arrived like any ordinary day. Rowan stepped outside expecting another ride to work. Instead, he found his old pickup truck parked neatly in the driveway, completely repaired and washed until it looked almost new. Fresh tires replaced the worn ones. The engine started perfectly. Inside the cab rested an envelope containing only a handwritten note. It simply read, "Even the strongest people deserve someone beside them. Keep driving forward. Your kindness has inspired more people than you know." Rowan stood frozen, unable to understand what had happened overnight. Tears filled his eyes for the first time since his wife's funeral. Owen ran around the truck laughing with pure excitement while Rowan quietly thanked heaven for reminding him he was not completely alone. Looking across the street, he noticed Maren watering flowers with the same calm smile she always wore. She never mentioned the surprise, never expected gratitude, and never tried to take credit. That silent respect meant even more than the gift itself. Life gradually transformed after that unforgettable morning. Reliable transportation allowed Rowan to accept better-paying jobs. Financial pressure slowly eased. Owen stopped worrying every time bills arrived in the mailbox. Weekends became opportunities for father and son to visit parks, libraries, and nearby lakes instead of constantly fixing broken things around the house. Maren often joined them, bringing homemade sandwiches and books that sparked Owen's imagination. Their friendship developed naturally, built not on romance alone but on trust, patience, and shared compassion. Months passed, and the neighborhood itself began changing. Inspired by Rowan's story without ever fully knowing the details, neighbors started checking on one another more often. Elderly residents received help carrying groceries. Children found volunteers willing to tutor them after school. Community gardens expanded. Holiday meals were shared among families who previously barely exchanged greetings. One quiet act of kindness had created countless others, proving compassion spreads further than anyone expects. The greatest transformation happened inside Rowan. For years he believed accepting help meant weakness because he had convinced himself he alone carried responsibility for everything. Maren gently showed him that true strength sometimes means allowing others to care. His laughter returned little by little. The heavy sadness in his eyes softened. Owen noticed first. One evening he watched his father smiling while repairing a neighbor's fence and realized something beautiful had changed. Home no longer felt like a place surviving grief. It finally felt alive again. Nearly a year after that first ride, the annual neighborhood picnic filled the local park with music, children's games, and homemade food. Rowan volunteered to grill meals while Owen proudly helped younger children with science experiments. During the afternoon, community leaders surprised Rowan with an appreciation award recognizing his countless hours repairing heating systems free of charge for elderly residents during winter. Rowan accepted the simple plaque with trembling hands, admitting that the real hero standing in the crowd was the woman who once stopped her car without asking questions. Although everyone applauded, Maren quietly wiped away tears because she understood that kindness never demands applause. Its greatest reward is watching hope return to someone who almost lost it forever. As the sun slowly settled across the bright afternoon sky, Rowan looked around at laughing families, playing children, and neighbors who had become true friends. He realized that one ordinary ride had become the beginning of an entirely new life. Grief had not disappeared, and memories of his late wife would always remain, but love had found another way to exist through friendship, compassion, and the courage of people willing to care. Sometimes miracles do not arrive with dramatic announcements. Sometimes they simply pull over beside the road and open a passenger door. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that kindness still exists in our world, please like this video, share it with someone who may need hope today, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to ECHOTALESTORY so together we can continue spreading stories that inspire compassion and second chances. Special request: before this story ends, please comment, "Kindness changes lives," if you believe one small act of compassion can create a lifetime of hope for someone else. The next time you notice someone quietly struggling, remember Rowan and Maren. You may never know the battles another person is fighting, but your simple decision to stop, listen, help, or even offer one ride could become the moment that changes an entire family's future forever. In a world where many people are too busy to notice pain hiding behind silent smiles, choose to become the person who sees, who cares, and who reminds others they are never truly alone. Because sometimes the greatest miracles begin with the smallest act of kindness on an ordinary daytime morning, and the echoes of that kindness continue changing lives long after the moment has passed.